when I'm putting together a project, I'm, kind of immediately looking at all of the potential financing sources. Well, where can we shoot the movie that gives us some form of rebate? Who are the potential equity financiers? How much equity am I ultimately going to be looking for? And what do I think I can get in terms of foreign sales, for which, you have some, as a producer, you just have some sense of that. I mean, if you don't, you're not going to make many movies. I mean, it's what you're supposed to do. But certainly you can call a salesperson and say, well, this is the kind of package we're contemplating. You may be doing this before you even try and put the package of talent together. Foreign sales agents are almost always driven by the prominence of the actors involved, whether they're the right actors, and is another story. And of course, getting those actors is incredibly difficult. So you're looking at all of these to see whether this is a viable project. And I've now put up, as we start to develop a project, I've now put up a much tougher screen to go through. So for me, with any project, starting any project, the first thing I say is, what does this mean to me? It's not, I don't initially even think about the audience. I think about, do I have a real passion and interest in telling the story? Because I know if I don't, if it's just a piece of business, it's just too difficult to get it done, and I will lose interest in it and it will go away. So that first screen is a personal one, and it's the great advantage of being an independent producer and of being someone who has a passion, caring about telling stories. And once I've gotten past that bar, then immediately the next bar is, not, fine, you're interested in it, Robert, who else is going to be interested in it? And if I can't see my way clear to having a marketing plan and a way of reaching audiences in sufficient quantity to make this viable as a theatrical experience, given what I estimate in my mind the cost of the movie to be, I will stop then. So I will either stop on not being sufficiently interested personally myself, or not feeling it financially viable. And I am doing that more today than ever before. It's frustrating, but that's the way of the world. But my background, when I started in this business, I was running marketing at Columbia and Fox, and my department was responsible for releasing 100 movies during that period of time. And what I learned, the amount of disappointment, the amount of happiness at times when you would see the grosses and go, yes, and you go, oh my God, we didn't, and I learned a lot about the marketplace. And so I bring that always to the movie. So that's my advantage, or I think personally my advantage of being able to make a marketplace assessment. So when we started on the basis of 6 years ago, I knew in my mind how we were going to reach the market. Now, a whole lot of things could have happened during the course of that to nullify it. None of those occurred, or certainly, and so we were able to make it, and to be able to sit with the people at Focus and participant and say, here's how we're going to market the movie. And I have no doubt that if I haven't seen our movie yet, we just finished, but if it is what I hope it to be, then I believe we have a really very viable commercial venture. And when you're spending in excess, when you're spending, well, any money for sure, but when you're spending in excess of $10 million on a movie, somebody's risking money somewhere. And that's a lot, that's money. And if it's personal money, if it's an individual's money as opposed to a studio's money, you have even more responsibility as an independent producer. Studios are in the business of of taking these risks. That's what they do, And I've always been incredibly responsible to them. But in any portfolio, that's what it's going to be, and the studio moves on. And yet, in the early days of my career, when I was at Columbia, when we had Close Encounters of the Third Kind in the Deep, the studio hung on those movies. Today, the studios don't hang on anything because they're so backed up by huge media empires. But I remember the nervousness inside Columbia Pictures when those movies came, because if they had failed, the studio would have been close to going bankrupt. Which studios went bankrupt in the late '60s? So it wasn't unheard of. That's unheard of today with big studios. So I have an acute sense of responsibility to the financing entity. And if you cannot make the case for a viable economic model, then your personal passion for something I think is insufficient. Go paint a picture. It doesn't cost you anything except the canvas.